Elizabeth Holmes, the founder and former CEO of the blood testing company Theranos, was once hailed as the youngest self-made female billionaire and the next Steve Jobs. However, in 2015, a series of investigative reports by journalist John Carreyrou exposed the company's fraudulent practices and inaccurate technology, leading to criminal charges against Holmes and the downfall of Theranos. In this article, we will delve into the life of Elizabeth Holmes, the rise and fall of Theranos, the legal issues and charges against her, and the impact of this scandal on the biotech industry and investors. Early life and education of Elizabeth Holmes. Family background and childhood. Elizabeth Holmes was born on February 3, 1984, in Washington, D.C., to Christian Rasmus Holmes IV, a vice president at Enron, and Noelle Ann Doust, a congressional committee staffer. Growing up, Holmes was raised by her father, who was a successful entrepreneur himself, after her parents' divorce. She had a privileged upbringing, attending an exclusive private school in Houston, Texas, and later enrolling at St. John's School in Houston. Education and early entrepreneurial ventures. Holmes enrolled at Stanford University as a chemical engineering major at the age of 19, but she dropped out in her sophomore year to found her own company, Theranos, in 2003. Her inspiration for Theranos came after her uncle was diagnosed with cancer and suffered from the painful experience of traditional blood tests. In response, Holmes developed the idea of creating a technology that could perform a variety of blood tests with only a few drops of blood, quickly and cheaply. Founding and rise of Theranos. The idea of Theranos in its early days. After dropping out of Stanford, Holmes founded Theranos with the goal of revolutionizing healthcare and making blood testing more accessible. Early on, she faced skepticism from industry experts who questioned the feasibility of her technology. However, she persevered and eventually attracted investors and big-name partners. Partnering with Walgreens and expansion plans. In 2010, Theranos partnered with Walgreens to offer blood tests at its stores nationwide, expanding its customer reach exponentially. By 2014, the company was valued at $9 billion and Holmes was hailed as a visionary entrepreneur. She graced the cover of numerous magazines and was lauded as a pioneering leader in the biotech industry. Investor funding and high-profile board of directors. Theranos was a magnet for investment funding, with high-profile investors like Rupert Murdoch and Betsy DeVos jumping on board. The company also attracted high-profile board members like former Secretary of State George Shultz and retired Marine Corps General James Mattis, who went on to become Secretary of Defense under President Trump. The controversy and investigations surrounding Theranos. The first Wall Street Journal article and its impact. In 2015, investigative journalist John Carreyrou published an article in the Wall Street Journal, detailing discrepancies in Theranos technology and the accuracy of its blood tests. As more information came to light, the company's reputation began to crumble, and Holmes' leadership was called into question. Government investigations and regulatory issues. As the controversy around Theranos grew, government agencies began to investigate. In 2016, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS, declared that the company's laboratory posed immediate jeopardy to patient safety, and the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, launched an investigation into the company. Eventually, both the SEC and the Department of Justice, DOJ, filed charges against Holmes. Lawsuits and claims of fraud and misleading investors and consumers. Numerous lawsuits were filed against Theranos, alleging that the company had defrauded investors and misled consumers. The company settled some of these suits, but others continued until the company eventually shut down in 2018. Holmes herself faced multiple charges of fraud and misleading investors. Legal issues and charges against Elizabeth Holmes. SEC charges and settlements. In March of 2018, the SEC charged Holmes and Theranos COO Sunny Balwani with massive fraud for misleading investors about the capabilities of the company's technology. Holmes settled the charges, agreeing to pay a $500,000 fine and to not serve as an officer or director of a public company for 10 years. DOJ criminal charges and trial. In June of 2018, a grand jury indicted Holmes and Balwani on wire fraud charges. Balwani is set to go to trial in January of 2022, while Holmes' trial was initially set for July of 2020 but has been repeatedly delayed. As of July 2021, Holmes' trial is scheduled for August of 2021. Consequences and possible punishments. If found guilty of the charges against her, Holmes could face up to 20 years in prison and a $2.75 million fine. The trial will be closely watched, as it could have far-reaching implications for the tech industry and the way in which startups are valued and invested in. The downfall and aftermath of Theranos. Elizabeth Holmes was once touted as a visionary entrepreneur and the youngest self-made female billionaire. Her startup, Theranos, promised to revolutionize the healthcare industry with a device that could perform multiple blood tests with just a small sample. However, it all came crashing down when it was revealed that Theranos technology did not work as advertised. Shutdown and liquidation of the company. In 2018, Theranos was charged with massive fraud by the SEC and Holmes was indicted on multiple counts of fraud and conspiracy. The company eventually shut down and its remaining assets were liquidated to pay off creditors. Holmes is currently awaiting trial, which is set to begin in August 2021. Impact on the industry and investors. The collapse of Theranos sent shockwaves through the healthcare industry and Silicon Valley. It exposed the dangers of hype and overvaluation of unproven technologies, as well as the potential consequences of misleading investors and consumers. The scandal also prompted regulatory scrutiny and calls for stricter oversight of the laboratory testing industry. Reflection and lessons learned. The Theranos scandal serves as a cautionary tale for entrepreneurs, investors, and regulators. It highlights the importance of transparency, due diligence, and ethical behavior in business. It also underscores the need for a healthy dose of skepticism and critical thinking when evaluating new technologies and companies. Elizabeth Holmes' personal life. Aside from her professional career, Elizabeth Holmes also had a personal life that garnered attention. Relationships and marriage. Holmes was engaged to her former Theranos COO, Sunny Balwani, but the relationship ended prior to the scandal. She is now married to William, Billy, Evans, a hotel heir, and they have a child together. Philanthropic and personal interests. Holmes was known for her philanthropic endeavors, particularly in the areas of education and healthcare. She founded the Elizabeth Holmes Foundation, which aimed to support young entrepreneurs and advance scientific research. In her free time, she enjoyed hiking and running. Lessons learned from the Theranos scandal. The Theranos scandal has sparked discussions and debates about what can be done to prevent similar situations from happening in the future. Regulatory reforms and changes in the industry. The scandal has led to increased scrutiny and regulation of the laboratory testing industry. The FDA and CMS have proposed new rules that would require more transparency and accuracy in lab tests. Investor due diligence and corporate governance. Investors have been reminded of the importance of proper due diligence and corporate governance. They are now more cautious about investing in startups with unproven technologies and inexperienced founders. Future of Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos. The aftermath of the Theranos scandal has left many wondering about the future of Elizabeth Holmes and her company. Appeal and possible outcomes of the criminal trial. Holmes has pleaded not guilty to the fraud charges and her trial is set to begin soon. If convicted, she could face up to 20 years in prison. However, she is expected to appeal if she is found guilty. Elizabeth Holmes' future career and endeavors. It is unclear what Holmes' future holds after the trial. Some speculate that she may continue to pursue entrepreneurial ventures while others believe that her reputation has been irreparably damaged. Regardless, the Theranos scandal will continue to be a significant chapter in her legacy. The Theranos scandal involving Elizabeth Holmes has been a cautionary tale for investors, regulators, and entrepreneurs alike. It has highlighted the importance of due diligence, transparency, and ethical practices in the biotech industry. The aftermath of this scandal will continue to reverberate for years to come. As the legal proceedings against Elizabeth Holmes continue, the future of both her and Theranos remains uncertain. Nevertheless, this scandal has brought about much-needed reforms and awareness in the industry, making it better equipped to serve the public interest going forward. FAQ. Did Elizabeth Holmes go to jail? Elizabeth Holmes has not gone to jail yet. She is currently facing criminal charges and her trial is set to begin in March 2021. If convicted, she could face up to 20 years in prison. What happened to Theranos? Theranos went bankrupt in 2018 after its fraudulent practices were exposed. The company's assets were liquidated to pay off its creditors. Its technology and patents were sold to Fortress Investment Group. What was the impact of the Theranos scandal? The Theranos scandal had a significant impact on the biotech industry and investors. It exposed the potential dangers of hype and secrecy in the startup culture, and raised questions about the validity and reliability of new technologies. It also led to increased scrutiny and regulation of the industry, as well as a heightened awareness of the importance of transparency and ethical practices. What is Elizabeth Holmes doing now? Elizabeth Holmes has largely been out of the public eye since the Theranos scandal broke. She has been working on her defense for the criminal charges she is facing, and has been spotted in court hearings and depositions. It is unclear what her future holds, but she could potentially face fines, imprisonment, and the loss of her medical license.